What's going on, guys? I'm meteorologist Jonathan Kegas. In today's video, we are talking all things tropics. Earl is very close to hurricane status. A new tropical storm watch just issued for the island of Bermuda. We'll break that down. Also, Danielle remains a hurricane in the North Atlantic, and two more waves are just moving off of Africa as we speak. Those both have the potential to develop and need to be watched closely. Stick around to the end of the video. We are breaking those down for the long range coming up. We're going to start with the visible satellite. The sun's starting to set on Earl, so don't have much time left on the visible satellite. But the 1 minute scan, you can see the thunderstorm activity blossoming near the center here. You see it getting darker on the right again because the sun is setting. Most of the thunderstorm activity being pushed to the north. It's indicative of some shear still battling against Earl's development, but Earl is fighting it off and likely will not be a tropical storm for much longer. Let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments. I would love to know where you're tuning in from this afternoon and evening. Nonetheless, Earl is on the brink of hurricane status. We're looking at the 5 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Here is the island of Bermuda, the island just outside of the cone. But remember, the cone is the forecast for the center, and it can bounce around within that cone. The impacts of the storm itself are felt well outside. So we are certainly going to get impacts from on the island of Bermuda. In terms of the forecast, it's expected to become a hurricane overnight. There's 2 a.m., the forecast point on September 7th, a Category 1, 75-mile-per-hour hurricane. As we move into the 8th, there's 2 o'clock on the afternoon of September 8th, a 105-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane. And then just to the east of the island of Bermuda, a Category 3 major hurricane with sustained winds expected of 115 miles an hour. Again, those winds will be tightly packed around the center of the hurricane east of the island of Bermuda. But we are no doubt going to get tropical storm conditions on the island itself. It's the reason why the National Hurricane Center has issued a tropical storm watch for Bermuda. That means that tropical storm conditions are possible within the next 48 hours. I want to show you one of the hurricane models now. This is the H-Wharf, and I think it paints a pretty good picture of what is going to happen or the likely outcome of this system when it comes to Bermuda. It also shows the center staying to the east of the island, but there are still going to be some pretty nasty impacts felt as Earl passes by. Again, here is the center of the storm. These little purple and yellow arms, if you will, those are some of those spiral bands of this strengthening hurricane by the time we get into Thursday evening. So this is Thursday evening now, and moving into Friday morning. So the latter stages of Thursday into early Friday can be kind of nasty on the island of Bermuda, even with the strongest part of the hurricane passing to the east. Going to get lashed by some of these outer bands. Very heavy rain, the potential for flooding going to be there, the potential for tornadoes and water spouts going to be there, and then at least tropical storm force wind gusts, maybe even closing in on hurricane force in the stronger thunderstorms that come through on the island. But again, that's with the worst of the weather staying off the island. Here we go, early Friday morning, just after sunrise here. Here is Bermuda. We are still dealing with some of those outer bands as Earl really ramps up, likely becoming its strongest point as it moves away from Bermuda and enters the North Atlantic. I want to show you from a wind perspective now. This is the same model. We're looking at the wind. These are sustained winds, and you clearly see where the strongest winds are. Right around the center. That's what we always see with the hurricanes once they become well defined, right in that eye wall and that purple there. That's where the most intense sustained winds are. From a sustained wind perspective here, you see that yellow and green color right around the island of Bermuda. And there you go. That would equate to tropical storm force wind speeds sustained. And we could have gusts at times, especially when those stronger thunderstorms come rolling through the island, approaching, maybe even exceeding hurricane force. So again, not going to be a walk in the park in Bermuda, but things are certainly going to be better than they would have if this would have made landfall in Bermuda, which at this time anyway, it looks like it is not going to do. But you clearly see where the strongest winds are Still here. This is early Friday morning again. Tropical storm force winds continue. And then as we get deeper into Friday morning, and then finally by Friday afternoon, the wind on a sustained level starts to back off a little bit. So, really, from Thursday afternoon to Friday afternoon, could be a little nasty 24-hour period with the outer bands of Earl moving through Bermuda. Before we get to the other systems swirling in the Atlantic, I just wanted to thank everybody for subscribing. Welcome all the new subscribers to this channel. If you are finding this channel for the first time, we would love to have you along for the ride. Please hit that subscribe button. Also hit the alert bell, and you will be alerted to any time we post new content. Love having the conversations of where you guys are watching from and what you guys are experiencing with the weather. Love to have you in this community. Now let's get on to the rest of the Atlantic. We're going to head way up into the North Atlantic now. There is Danielle, still a hurricane and still looking pretty healthy. Very strong hurricane for where it is in the world and for how long it's been there. Again, just kind of meandering and doing its thing in the North Atlantic. Again, not impacting anything. This is likely going to just safely pass by to our north in the Azores as it weakens and becomes extratropical, losing its tropical characteristics as it just kind of spins around and does some weird stuff up in the North Atlantic. This is what I mean by weird stuff. This is the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. That cone off to the left, that is eventually going to be Earl. So getting into the same kind of area that Danielle is right now, there's, of course, Danielle spinning. Still expected to maintain hurricane strength as we get into the next couple of days here. This is 8 o'clock in the morning on September 7th. Eventually, as we get into the 8th, 9th, 10th, that's when it's going to start to undergo that transition to becoming extratropical. But you see what it's going to do. Come way up into the North Atlantic, do a little loop-de-loop, and then work its way back down south. So we will still have to be on guard here as the satellite doesn't go, at least on this channel here, all the way over to Europe. But as we get over to Spain and Portugal, we may end up having a gusty little storm here as we get into the upcoming weekend and beyond. So just something to watch here as we move over the next 5 to 7 days. Lastly, there are two other areas the National Hurricane Center has highlighted for possible development over the next 5 days. The first one, we'll start with the one that's out in front. There are the thunderstorms kind of blossoming, and it's out into this orange zone that we could have development and likely will, according to most model scenarios here. This one, though, likely going to get sucked up into the Bermuda High and get flung back out to sea. This one should be a non-issue for everybody, even if it does become a depression and eventually gets a name. So good news on that one. This next one, though, this one we're going to have to watch. It's coming off Africa a little lower. Number one, that always raises the antenna because a lower system, a lower at least latitude anyway, coming off of Africa, it already has a better chance to connect and get into the Caribbean and potentially the United States, pending the steering currents down the road. Nonetheless, here we go with that round of thunderstorms, and you see that yellow shaded area. That is where the Hurricane Center believes that it's going to have the best chance to become a depression over the next 5 days. Right now, it's a low chance, but that chance is going to grow as it would work its way out. I'm going to move the map here and show you again. Here are us in the Caribbean islands, the Leeward and Windward Islands. So we're going to have to just keep that in the back of your mind over the next 7 to 10 days. Again, that is a long way away, but just something to be mindful of. Not only of that one, but there's another wave that is not yet highlighted from the Hurricane Center, and we didn't show you here on the satellite, but it's still doing its thing in the central part of Africa. It is over land, but that one is also going to have the chance to make the long trip. Again, this is peak season. This is to be expected, so nothing out of the ordinary here. Just something to pay attention after what has been a very, very quiet start to the 2022 hurricane season. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this video. Again, we break down all things weather. This is, of course, the peak of hurricane season. There's a lot going on. You've come to the right place. If you want a no-nonsense breakdown of the weather, please hit that subscribe button. Love talking with you guys. Would love to have you in this weather community. We'll catch you next time.